BTS news today. The moment it happened, no one typed anything. For a few seconds that felt far longer than they truly were, the Weverse live chat, usually a river of hearts, emojis, and frantic messages, seemed to collectively hold its breath. Jungkook was there on screen, sitting comfortably, his shoulders relaxed, his familiar half-smile lingering as he listened to something off camera. Then, without warning, his expression shifted. His eyes softened, unfocused just slightly, and the words he had been forming never came. He fell silent. For Jungkook, silence is never just silence. Not to ARMY. Not after years of watching him grow up in front of cameras. Not after countless lives where every laugh, every sigh, every shy glance carried meaning. So when he stopped speaking in the middle of that Weverse live, even briefly, the reaction was immediate and visceral. Social media lit up within seconds. Clips of the moment were replayed again and again, slowed down, zoomed in, analyzed frame by frame. Fans asked the same question in dozens of languages across continents and time zones. Why did Jungkook go silent? At first glance, it seemed insignificant. A pause, a breath, a normal human moment. Yet nothing about Jungkook's relationship with ARMY is ever ordinary. Over the years, he has become known for his openness, his willingness to talk honestly about pressure, fear, exhaustion, and dreams. When someone like him suddenly stops talking, people listen harder. The Weverse Live itself had started warmly, almost casually. Jungkook greeted fans with the familiar ease of someone who has done this hundreds of times, but still treats each broadcast as something personal. He joked about small things, laughed at comments popping up on the screen, and shared little fragments of his day. His voice was steady, his energy gentle but present. There was no visible tension, no hint that anything was wrong. If anything, he seemed comfortable, grounded, even reflective. That was what made the silence so striking to it. Happened as he was responding to a comment that scrolled by too quickly for most viewers to catch. Jungkook read it aloud halfway, then stopped. His lips pressed together, and he leaned back slightly, eyes drifting downward as if searching for the right words, or perhaps deciding whether those words should be spoken at all. The room around him felt suddenly louder in its quietness. You could hear his breathing, soft and controlled. Seconds passed. Then another. In those few seconds, 1,000 interpretations were born. Some fans believed the comment touched on something deeply personal, something that pulled him out of his lighthearted mood and into a more vulnerable headspace. Others thought he might have been listening to someone behind a camera, receiving instructions or news that momentarily shifted his focus. There were those who wondered if the silence was emotional, a wave of feeling catching him off guard as it has before. Jungkook has never hidden the fact that he feels deeply, that certain words from ARMY can reach him in unexpected ways. When he finally spoke again, his voice was calm, but different, softer, more deliberate. He smiled, but it was the kind of smile that comes after holding something back, not the carefree grin from moments earlier. He brushed it off gently, changing the subject, as if to reassure everyone without explaining anything directly. To a casual viewer, it might have seemed like nothing. To ARMY, it felt like a chapter briefly opened and then closed before anyone could read it fully. This was not the first time Jungkook's silence had spoken louder than words. Throughout BTS's career, there have been moments when he paused mid-sentence, when his eyes betrayed thoughts he chose not to vocalize. Each time, fans have learned that Jungkook often carries more than he shows. As the youngest member who grew up under immense global attention, he learned early how to protect parts of himself, even while giving so much to the world. In recent months, that sensitivity has felt closer to the surface. With BTS navigating individual paths alongside their collective identity, Jungkook stands at a unique crossroads. He is no longer just the golden magne chasing perfection. He is an artist defining his own voice, balancing expectations, ambition, and personal growth. The silence during the Weverse live felt, to many, like a reflection of that inner balancing act. Some fans connected the moment to the broader atmosphere surrounding BTS at the time. Speculation about schedules, future projects, and the group's next chapter has been intense. Every appearance, every word spoken by any member is scrutinized for clues. Jungkook knows this better than anyone. He knows how easily a single sentence can be taken out of context, magnified, and turned into headlines. Choosing silence, even briefly, can sometimes be the safest and most honest option. There is also the emotional weight of connection itself. Jungkook has often said that he feels ARMY's love very strongly, sometimes overwhelmingly so. During live broadcasts, when thousands of messages pour in at once, emotions can collide unexpectedly. A simple comment saying, "Are you okay?" or "You look tired," can open doors he didn't plan to walk through that day. Silence, in that sense, can be a moment of grounding, a way to steady himself before continuing. What made this particular silence resonate was not just the pause itself, but what followed in the days after. Fans continued to talk about it, but not with panic or accusations. Instead, there was a noticeable shift toward empathy. Messages circulated encouraging Jungkook to take his time, to speak when he wants to, and be quiet when he needs to. In a fandom often stereotyped as loud and relentless, this moment revealed something gentler, a collective understanding that idols are human, and humans sometimes need to stop talking to breathe. Jungkook, for his part, never directly explained the silence. And perhaps that was intentional. Not every moment needs a statement. Not every feeling needs translation. By moving on without explanation, he quietly set a boundary, reminding viewers that while he shares much of himself, not everything is meant for public consumption. That boundary, expressed through silence, may have been one of the most honest things he could offer. Looking back, the moment feels less like an interruption and more like a reflection. A reflection of an artist who has grown comfortable enough to pause, even in front of millions. A reflection of a fandom mature enough to respect that pause. In an industry built on constant output and endless visibility, a few seconds of silence can be radical. The reason Jungkook went silent during the Weverse live may never be confirmed in concrete terms. It could have been emotional, practical, reflective, or a combination of all three. But perhaps the more important question is not why he went silent, but what that silence revealed. It revealed trust. Both his trust in ARMY to understand without explanation, and ARMY's trust in him to share what matters when the time is right. In the end, the silence did not distance Jungkook from his fans. If anything, it brought them closer. It reminded everyone watching that behind the stage lights, behind the performances and accolades, there is a person still learning, still feeling, still choosing when to speak and when to simply exist. And in that brief, quiet moment on Weverse Live, Jungkook allowed the world to see that sometimes silence is not absence. It is presence in its purest form. The conversation around that silence did not fade away after the live ended. Instead, it lingered, growing quietly in the hours that followed, like an echo that refused to disappear. Fans rewatched the broadcast late into the night, noticing details they had missed the first time. The way Jungkook's fingers subtly tightened around his phone, the brief inhale he took, deeper than his previous breaths, the almost imperceptible nod, as if he were answering a question no one else could hear. Each small detail added another layer to the moment, turning a few seconds into something that felt emotionally expansive. For many ARMY, the silence felt familiar. It reminded them of other times when Jungkook chose restraint over explanation. Years ago, during interviews where difficult questions were asked, he often paused before responding, carefully weighing honesty against responsibility. That habit did not come from uncertainty, but from awareness. Awareness that his words carry weight, that they travel far beyond the room he is in, reaching people who interpret them through their own hopes and fears. The Weverse live silence felt like that same instinct resurfacing, a reflex honed over a decade in the public eye. There was also the undeniable context of timing. Jungkook's solo journey has placed him under an entirely new kind of spotlight. No longer shielded by group dynamics during every appearance, he stands alone, praised more intensely and criticized more harshly. That kind of visibility can be exhilarating, but it can also be isolating. During the live, he had been speaking casually, almost vulnerably, as if trying to maintain the closeness he has always shared with ARMY. When that closeness brushes up against personal truth, silence can become a form of self-protection. Some fans speculated that the comment he read may have referenced expectations. Expectations about music, about future plans, about timelines that Jungkook himself may not be ready to confirm. Over the years, he has spoken openly about feeling pressure to meet an image of perfection. Even now, despite his success, that pressure does not disappear. If anything, it evolves. Silence, in that moment, may have been his way of refusing to reduce complex emotions into a simple answer that would only create more questions. What stood out most, however, was what Jungkook did after the silence. He did not apologize for it. He did not joke it away aggressively. He simply continued, gently steering the conversation back to lighter ground. That choice sent a subtle message. It suggested confidence in his right to pause, to feel, to decide what he shares. For an idol who debuted at 15 and spent much of his life adapting to expectations, that quiet assertion of agency felt significant. The fandom's reaction reflected this shift as well. Instead of demanding explanations, many fans expressed gratitude. Gratitude that Jungkook felt comfortable enough to be human in front of them. Gratitude that he did not force a smile or a rehearsed response. In comment sections and fan communities, the tone softened. People reminded each other that loving an artist also means respecting their silence, not just celebrating their words that in the days following the live. Jungkook's absence from immediate updates only deepened the conversation. Every hour without a post, every day without another live, became part of the narrative. Yet unlike past moments of concern, this time there was less panic. Instead, there was patience. It was as if that brief silence had recalibrated expectations, reminding everyone that constant access is not the same as genuine connection. When Jungkook eventually appeared again, whether through music, a message, or another broadcast, the memory of that pause remained. It colored the way fans listened to him, making them more attentive not just to what he said, but to how he said it. The silence had taught them something. That sometimes the most honest moments are the ones that are not filled with words that in hindsight. The question, why Jungkook went silent for a moment during the Weverse live, may never have a definitive answer. And perhaps it doesn't need one. The power of that moment lies precisely in its ambiguity. It allowed space for empathy, reflection, and a deeper understanding of the man behind the idol. Silence, after all, is not emptiness. For Jungkook, it has become another language, one that speaks of growth, boundaries, and the courage to pause in a world that constantly demands noise. And for ARMY, learning to listen to that language may be one of the most meaningful parts of supporting him as he continues to evolve.